Now, that right there is what I call a memorable soundtrack. The soundtrack to Fists of Fury, aka The Big Boss, by the one and only and the late Mr. Peter Thomas. What you are seeing here is 3 LPs that was put out back in 2020 by All Score Records by my friend Mr. Dietmar Bosch. And the reason there's 3 versions is that one of them is in the standard black vinyl, the second is in a very limited red vinyl, and the third one is in a limited yellow vinyl. And what's amazing about the soundtrack is that actually it's an improved soundtrack to The Big Boss. Back in 2010, this soundtrack was actually released for the very first time on vinyl and CD. But this one has actually 4 new cuts that were easily discovered in the vaults. Music that Mr. Thomas had created for Fists of Fury, but never made it on the original soundtrack. Now, these 2 stickers here are for the original Japanese release. So, All Score Records would slap one of these stickers on their records and ship them off to Japan for the Japanese market. And my friend Dietmar also was generous enough to send me these amazing postcards. These are promotional and very limited postcards for the release of this album, which came out in 2020. It features a great cover art. I mean, it's from Fist of Fury, but hey, man, who cares? It's Bruce Lee, right? And so I'm happy to have these. These are just great to have in the collection. And Dietmar was also kind enough to send me a CD signed by the son of Peter Thomas. Sadly, Mr. Thomas had passed away when this album was released. He also passed away in 2020 when this album was released. So he never got to sign this, but his son was generous and kind enough to sign this for me. And of course, I have to have a sealed CD just to keep it preserved. So if you don't have this, I advise you to get this. I mean, this is just a great piece to have in the collection. Now, this one here is the 2010 release. Again, this is the very first time that the soundtrack to The Big Boss was ever released on vinyl, and they did a masterful job putting this together. It's got a great cover, and this is the flip side featuring Bruce Lee's iconic Flying Man, or that amazing flying sidekick. Here's also a track listing. This one, if you can see carefully, it's missing 4 of the cuts that are available in the latest release, which is the one that came out in 2020. This one is from 2010. This also brings a really nice leaflet. As you can see here, features the artwork that was used for the Japanese theatrical poster. And this is a really nice leaflet that came with the album. But what makes this album very special to me is the fact that this one is signed by the late Mr. Peter Thomas. He signed the leaflet on this one. This is when Dietmar Bosch actually brought Mr. Peter Thomas to Australia to promote the release of the soundtrack. And Mr. Thomas signed this as well. So I'm very fortunate to have this in the collection. I mean, Peter Thomas, it's just iconic, just like Lalo Schifrin. Also, Mr. Bosch was generous enough to send me this signed CD booklet featuring music from Jerry Cotton, which was a film series, and the music is composed by Mr. Peter Thomas as well. So thank you so much, Dietmar, for sending me that booklet with the albums. So I highly recommend these amazing soundtracks. Great to have them in your collection if you're a soundtrack collector, but most important of all, if you're a Bruce Lee collector. That's what counts. Rest in peace, Mr. Thomas.